Many still regard the Himalayas as the abode of gods. They have been compared as physical representation of the loftiness of the human soul and the universality of human consciousness. Those who have been to the Himalayas have rarely returned unmoved. I remember how they moved me the first time I set my eyes on them, and some magical energy ran down my spine. No wonder many regard the Himalayas as mountains of emotions, not rocks and boulders. Many believe we must preserve and nurture the Himalayas, not only to save our culture, but to save our souls. The Himalayas are regarded as sacred, not only because they give rise to our rivers on the western and eastern ranges, but because they bring life to the plains and the skies that are far beyond the mountain ranges. They are regarded as the home to the Shangri-La, an earthly paradise, a retreat from pressures of modern civilization. They are also regarded as a pilgrim's paradise, a heaven of spiritual practice, and the place for penance, a place to atone for our sins. Even Sundarlal Bahuguna, the Himalayan saint who left us for life beyond the physical 2 weeks ago, evoked our conscience for respect and care to our dying planet through his Satyagraha, the insistence on truth, and the Chipko movement that he led by asking, why should a river, a mountain, a forest, or the ocean be killed while we cling to life? Perhaps he also meant, how will we live when our mountains, our forests, our rivers, our oceans, and our air, which give us life, are killed? My dear friend Jan Sensmir has already highlighted that our relationship with the Himalayas has become one of exploitation of the resources it has to offer, not one of sustaining the ecosystem. And our infrastructure and technology have consistently failed to protect us from the climate crisis and extreme events. Do we need to examine our relationship with our ecosystem that sustains us? Is it then the responsibility we should have to the Himalayan ecosystem? Will we recognize that responsibility to our ecosystems if we see them as a resource to be exploited? Will we recognize our responsibility if we do not have an ethical compass to guide our actions? What is our ethical responsibility to the Himalayan ecosystem? In fact, to every ecosystem. Will recognition of that responsibility cause us to control our aggression, exercise restraint, and express humility in our acts towards the ecosystem? We have asked our today's keynote speakers to address these difficult questions. We have asked them to invoke our conscience to drive our actions. We have asked them on this World Environment Day to do what we need to do the most, to recognize the environment as a living whole of which we are but a small part. And from that recognition, to appeal to our institutions to recognize and act with ethical responsibility towards the ecosystems that bring us our life and sustain it. Jan and I invite you to meditate on the wisdom of our keynote speakers, what they will lead us through their lens of their unique and rich experience and understanding of our ecosystems and our ethical responsibilities. While none of our speakers today need introduction, Jan and I will briefly introduce each speaker as we invite them to share their thoughts with you. We have requested each speaker to present a condensed version of their wisdom in just 10 minutes. It is the meditation of each speaker. We did this so that the seeds of wisdom sown by each speaker will find nourishment in our conscience and translate into action.